Well, good morning. Happy Saturday, wherever you are. Episode 321 of Hobby Hotline. I'm joined by Brody and Chris. How you guys doing today?
We're doing good. Great World Series game yesterday. Good wrestling yesterday. Excited for the show today.
Absolutely. Chris, I know you are. What show are you at?
I'm not at a show. I'm at my son's baseball tournament. So
That's
this
right.
is the first weekend in a bit where I'm hanging out with the fam. So good to be nearby, but I'm at a local hotel to chat with you guys.
Well, thank you for joining us. We got people in the chat room already. Mad City Brew. Morning, everyone. Still have goosebumps from last night's walk-off grand slam. I hope people have seen it. If you haven't, right after the show, go see the replay. Good morning. Happy Saturday. Go Dodgers. Good morning, Abel. Vintage Card Collector. Hey, guys. Billy Joe, good morning. Ruben, Danny looking like he's in a hostage video. Danny is in a hostage video. Danny is helping take care of his dad. So we all jump in where we have to. Good morning, Michael. Rex, good morning. Yes, the sports card shop, Michigan and Indiana. We're on the big screens. Thank you. Foul Ball, good morning. Again, good morning. Happy Saturday, Zig. All right. So let's start talking about last night. I guess it was a pretty good game. What would you say? Does this compare to Kirk Gibson, or is it too early in the series, Chris?
You know, I was actually at the USC football game last night. A good hack for you is when there's a lot of activities in the same town, you're going to get cheaper tickets. So we got tickets that would normally be $150 for $30 because there was the Laker game, there was the Clipper game, there was the World Series, and then USC football happened to be playing on Friday night. So I took my two boys, and it was wild because the stadium was about 3/4 full, but they were telling the score kind of throughout, but all of a sudden you hear this cheering, and it started off in this section over here, and then it slowly started to go around, and people are like, what's happening? What's going on? Freddie Freeman hit a grand slam, and my son was trying to keep up with the game, but it's hard with the Wi-Fi. So we knew it was tied in the 10th, and then that happened, and it was kind of crazy how the Coliseum exploded when they heard that the Dodgers won that way. So it was really different and kind of cool. But what about you, Brody? Where were you watching?
I thought it was a great game, and I love it's a lot of the same contributors. Stanton with the 2-run homer to give the Yankees the lead early, and then, the Yankees' decision to walk Mookie Betts. I don't love it. I said it right away. I'm like, just face Mookie Betts. I know it's a righty, but Freddie Freeman going into that bat was 9 of 14 in his career against lefties with the bases loaded. I don't know. And Nestor Cortez being his starter, he throws two pitches, and they're both fastballs down the middle.
Mookie says Gibson was such an improbable home run off the best closer of his generation and the prohibitive favorite A's. Freddie was so amazing, but Gibby was more iconic. Brody, who do you think's the favorite in the series?
I still like the Yankees to win the World Series because I think they have a better complete team, and the Dodgers are short on pitching. They only have 3 starters on their World Series roster. Had to leave off Evan Phillips as well, one of their best closers. I think the Yankees are just more complete, but either way, I think the series goes 7 games.
Chris, who you taking?
Well, my main team is the Padres. My second favorite team is whoever's playing the Dodgers, and so that turns out to be the Yankees. And so oddly, I'm a Yankees fan this week, but it was. I will say, Kirk Gibson his moment was iconic, but the story behind Freddie Freeman and his son and his injury, during this postseason, and then to come back and do that that's Hollywood movie script right there. We haven't even seen the end, so it was an amazing Hollywood start to this series for sure.
That's a great point. I think a lot of people root for Freddie Freeman. I think it was if you know the background of how he ended up with the Dodgers, his agent really overplayed the hand with the Braves. And before he knew what happened, Matt Olson was a Brave and he was a Dodger, and he didn't really want to leave Atlanta at first. So to see him come full circle and really be a hero and really embrace living there, I just think it is a cool for it to work out for him and to come full circle that way. And Chris, I'm like you. I root for whoever's playing the Yankees. So,
yeah, we're diametrically opposed, but for fun reasons.
Right, absolutely. And I like the Padres, so I wish they were in it. All right, Mookie is fantastic. I think Mookie Betts is a great representative of the game. He should do motivational posters. Abel, great story. He was at a musical and the game ended during intermission, so he got to see the video via the home run tweet. That's awesome. Larry, good morning. Saw Larry last night also. Love the guys in the night show and the morning show. Otani capping off 50-50 with a title would be epic. Brody, how much would that enhance his already crazy reputation in the hobby?
A lot, I feel like. I mean, because of his crazy season and the fact that it would be his first World Series title and really his first chance at a World Series, that would be amazing. It'd be one of the best seasons we've ever seen, really.
Chris, do you think baseball players need World Series as much as, let's say, basketball players or football quarterbacks to define their legacy?
I don't know. I mean, you have those magical moments, right? Like my dad still has a Ralph Branca autograph from the World Series moments. World Series moments can really define you. So yeah, I mean, you got to have the Super Bowl titles, you got to have the NBA titles, but you have a World Series moment like Freddie Freeman had last night. That lasts a long time.
Yeah, I think his cards simply, have more value. Chris, when something like this happens, do submissions go up for that player?
Yes. It's a lot like Topps Now stuff, like when you see the big population runs on certain Topps Now cards, it's just because the collector interest is there. And then after the moment, kind of wears off, or if that team's eliminated in a later round, it drops off a cliff sometimes. So depending on the athlete, but yeah, moments are they definitely trigger more submissions for grading companies for sure.
Brody, what was your thought of Freddie Freeman before and after? Did it change at all?
I mean, he created an iconic moment, but at the same time, he's a lock at being a Hall of Famer. He had an amazing career in Atlanta, and he's over here in LA doing pretty much the same thing, and he's done it for so much time now. He's a Hall of Famer, and he's adding this World Series legacy to it. It's pretty cool.
Mookie says seeing the fans going crazy in Japan was pretty cool. Global eyeballs in this World Series. I think we have to agree with that. This game last night was such a positive representation of the sport around the world. There's nothing you can do from a corporate standpoint that would surpass, something like this happening naturally. Rex says championships matter much to a baseball player's legacy, much less than they do to football and basketball players. Not sure why. That's what I was getting at before. I seem to feel, maybe it's the Ernie Banks syndrome, or, reluctantly, I'll admit Don Mattingly I thought was a great player. I wonder if they need it. This is a great analogy. Puckett's homer in 91. Game 6 was pretty iconic too. What's up, Keating? How you doing?
Hey, one thing, Danny, going back to seeing the fans in Japan, the game of baseball really is a global game now, and having representatives from Korea, from Japan, from all over the place, and the World Baseball Classic is one of my favorite events. I think it's just cool to see all the nations compete, and I didn't know that guy was from this country, but my family started off the year in Korea watching the Padres and Dodgers start, and it was such a cool experience. We're going to go to the Tokyo Dodgers Cubs game to kick it off next year, so we're going to be Cubs fans that series. But seeing baseball in a different country, even if it's Toronto, is really exciting, fun, different, to see the way that different fans experience it, the different chants, different music, the different traditions. It's awesome. So if you ever get the chance to do a baseball vacation, I can't recommend it highly enough.
And I'm glad you mentioned the World Baseball Classic, because if you can't get abroad, I was able to go to one of the games this year or last year, I guess already, and it was outstanding. You're exactly right, Chris. The vibe, the culture, the music. I'm not sure a person in the stadium sat where their ticket said. Everybody just sort of walked in and had a party. It was a great time. So definitely, I'm glad you gave that a shout out. Keating says memories are meant to be sold now. I guess that's the Tops Now comment. Brody, do you like the Tops Now concept, or is it manufactured? Literally manufactured, I guess.
Yeah, I'm torn on it. I love the concept. I mean, I've bought Tops Now for a while, but I don't love the autograph chase necessarily. But that's kind of a different conversation. I love that it captures the moment of what's happened. And a moment like Freddie hitting that homer yesterday, it's a cool card to have.
I'm going to jump slightly out of order, but there is a Tops Now for Bronny and LeBron that came out this week with the 1-on-1 dual autograph chase. It's a cool card. I personally, and I want to see how you guys feel, that the Bronny story is a nice story, but he's not Ken Griffey Jr. He's not the superstar, and his dad, is the main player in this thing. So, Chris, is this Tops Now one that you would go after, or maybe some of the other ones they've had?
God, it's so funny because I normally do fall for the chase, whether it be the triple autograph or something with Shohei. Like I will buy those because I'm like, maybe, and I've pulled some autographs out of Tops Now cards, which is packs, which is it's so exciting. I love that they do the chase on those, but you're right. Like I fall for the moment. Like I get all excited about the moment. I buy it, and then 3 weeks later, I've moved on to something else. I'm like, I forgot I even bought this. But it is cool. Like it is a nice way to capture the moments, and especially if it's a game you were at or a game you were totally invested in, or a friend who is totally invested in it. I buy a lot of Tops Now cards as gifts for people, even joke ones if their team lost. So it's I don't know, it's kind of fun, but. No, I was close to dropping the hammer on the Bronny card, but I was like, I'm kind of like you. I don't believe enough in Bronny, unfortunately, to sink more in there. So I lost a bit on Bronny. So I'm just like, I've been burned a little bit. I'm going to walk away.
Brody, they're talking about maybe moving Bronny between the NBA and developmental G League. Is the pressure on him unfair? Is he being treated like other guys with his talent, or has it just gotten ridiculous?
I feel like it's just kind of gotten ridiculous. Like the moment with him and LeBron was cool, but at the end of the day, if you really sit back and look at it, if LeBron wasn't his dad, he's probably still at USC. That's just the facts, pretty much. Like he didn't do anything absolutely insane at USC to get drafted, but it was still a really cool moment. And I think LeBron talked about it. Him being on the two-way roster, I think is just better for his development. So if he does end up being a really good player, I think we'll see that within the next few years and the potential he actually does have. So I think it's a smart move.
Quick comment from Bo. He loves the LeBron and Bronny story. Bronny's no Griffey Jr., but Griffey Sr. was no LeBron. I guess that's a fair comment, but I'll still take Griffey Sr.'s career so far over Bronny's.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, Griffey Sr. I think is a little bit underrated because of his son. Griffey Sr. had a nice career. Topps now is real time. Technically, yes, Topps can release those cards through flagship products the following year. Well, that would be interesting. Would you be more inclined or less inclined to chase a card if it was in the regular release, Brody, versus being a Topps Now purchase?
I mean, I think it'd be kind of cool on flagship, but I think Topps has kind of done similar type things. Like, I think in Series 1, there was like a insert called like 2023's greatest hits. So, like, recapturing some of those moments from 2023 that were huge. So, I think they're kind of doing similar things in the flagship.
Chris.
Yeah, I mean the all manufacturers try to chronicle the season, but it's more relevant when it's in season, and that's why all manufacturers have also moved to these game dated moments, Topps Now, those types of things. So it's the leagues almost demand that you have things that accentuate what the positives are, and having items available real time. Like after a team wins the Super Bowl, the first commercial you're gonna see is come buy this swag. So it's almost a league mandate that these products exist, but it's good. Like I'm for it. And one thing I really like about Topps Now is it's not done on the full run of other larger revenue products. So I've personally found the quality to be really good, because I think they're for the vast majority they're doing smaller runs. So it feels like the quality's there. They grade really, really well. I think I've had 2 Topps Now cards get a 9. So I've been really impressed with the quality as well.
Somebody described it as small craft beer. That you have somebody paying a little bit more attention, and it's more of a passion project for the specific moment. John Keating, I want to give a fair shot to, because I agree with some of this. One of his bugaboos is the non-organic nature of today's moments. Bronny's entire pro career is manufactured. His draft, his making the roster, the announcement, timing of the G League stuff. I can't disagree with all that. It does feel like it was amazing that he ended up on the Lakers. It's amazing that everything fell just into place for the story. I'm not saying that this is Patrick Ewing with the Knicks. But it's interesting, to say the least. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm caught up on all the comments here. Great chat room. So I do want to talk about the Ohtani ball, because people brought that up. I just saw the comment. Somebody would rather have the Freddie Freeman ball over the Ohtani ball. And I thought that was an interesting comment. And I wanted to talk about the Ohtani ball in general. But I also wanted to talk about the fact that new memorabilia keeps setting records. So this record is eventually going to be passed. And the question is what type of ball or what ball would set a record, higher than this? Chris Carlin, if he goes 60-60 next year, is this ball already devalued?
I can't believe what that ball went for. I had a lot of people asking me in the beginning what I thought it would go for. I said maybe 1.5, 2 million. It's shocking that it went for that much to me. I don't think it's going to be worth that in the coming years. I see it being like a Mark McGwire type dip, because remember, bases are bigger. There's going to be more of those stolen base type records. And who knows what's going to happen in the future. So I don't know. I just don't see that being anywhere near what it's sold for. Myself personally, not my company, but I was shocked. So I can see other balls going for that much, but he's a global story. He's not just it's not like LeBron James doing something and getting the jersey off his back after a game. It's Shohei is next level. So I don't know who bought it. And I think there's a lot of interest in who bought it, or what group may have bought it, as well as something that's been talked about. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone shares that. But I thought it was an astronomical amount to spend for that baseball.
Golden did their Friday dump. It was a Taiwanese investment group.
Oh, cool. Yeah, group. That makes sense.
Yeah, at that price, it makes a lot of sense. Brody, I know you finished second in the bidding. Since you didn't get it, what ball or what piece of memorabilia in the future do you think is going to pass that?
They'd have to break the home run record for a season or lifetime, I think. Because I agree with Chris. I don't think stolen bases, not they don't matter anymore, but it's easier to steal bases. Ellie De La Cruz, that's our chase for 2024. He quietly had like 60, 65 stolen bases, somewhere around there during this Otani 50-50 year. And he had like 25 homers as well. So it's not, if you're a fast guy with that base being so much bigger, you're going to steal a lot of bases.
This is an interesting one. The Buckner ball sold for $400,000 12 years ago. Would go for millions today. The anniversary of the Bill Buckner play, I believe, was actually yesterday, if I have that correct. So good timing on that one.
To that end, Danny, it's really interesting what MLB has done with authentication. They have been the category leader in it with regard to making sure that meaningful items are tagged, serial numbers after they've been. I'm very active in the MLB auctions. In their auctions, because you can get items right from meaningful events, whether it be the name plate from a locker to a base to game used jerseys, helmets, batting gloves, cleats, everything. So they do a tremendous job with that. Collect, I think, just recently did a feature on the MLB authentication process, but it's showing other leagues the value of this. And what if the Buckner ball would have had a hologram number and COA on it and had been marketed through MLB? They finally are starting to crack the value tied to their assets. And it's cool as a collector to see, because it gives me easier access to some of these really cool items that you used to back then, Buckner era, you would have had to know someone or know an equipment manager or what have you. So it's cool to see that we all now kind of have access through that.
And if you ever go to a ball game and you wonder who the guy is at the end of the dugout, who they keep rolling the balls to, who's making notes, literally almost every ball that comes out of play is now documented. I know the Baltimore Orioles, I want to say in the 6th or 7th inning, actually start selling the baseballs from the beginning of the game. And every one of them is documented. Every one of them is numbered hologram, and you can track it. So if you go to your first game ever, you can actually get a ball that was used in that game. If you have a favorite player, you can get a ball that they got hit from. So, Chris, to your point, the big stuff and the little stuff, MLB, I think, is doing a great job on that. How can I get that job? That's a good question, Abel. We'd all love to sit in the dugout.
It doesn't pay a lot, but the fringe benefits are,
just hanging out in the dugout, just like my office. See, this is just like where I work. Brody, you set the home run record for the new ball. Do you think it could be a historic piece, like the Kirk Gibson, if somebody has that ball, or the Babe Ruth called shot ball, if that were to come around, or something like that? Do you think it could be historic, or do you think it would be something in the moment?
I think it's more something in the moment, because I think there's not that many records in baseball. There's some, but there's not that many records that I don't think are never going to get broken. So I think it's more about the moment, and eventually somebody might just break it.
Chris, after the Otani ball goes for $4.4 million, just out of curiosity, where does that Freddie Freeman ball go for if it sells in the next couple of days? I mean, does that get $1 million?
Right? I think it's going to take the Dodgers obviously have to win for it to have legs, but that could be one of the defining moments for sure. So, but it's contingent, I think, on the Dodgers winning. Otherwise, it's a nice moment from a loss, which is wild. It shows you it could double the value of the ball by the Dodgers going on to win. So we'll just kind of have to see. But I was so off on the Otani, I don't even want to make a guess, So who knows what's going on? It's cuckoo out there right now. You'd think you don't see these prices when the economy is kind of struggling like this, but there it is. So it's wild.
John Keating says the Aaron home run ball should be the highest value ball. That was a pretty big deal. What would that go for in today's world? I mean, Brody, I mean, how much does that pass the Otani ball by if you have the Hank Aaron home run ball? I mean, would it double it? Am I crazy?
Maybe. I think maybe.
I mean, I am crazy, but about the price.
Yeah, I think it definitely is close. And it's a historic ball. Maybe it's probably a big ball. Well, that's the thing too. If that home run is in Game 7, that's worth more than the Otani ball. I feel like
that's a good point.
Similar happens in Game 7,
and that was the Joe Carter home run,
right?
So I don't know about the Toronto memorabilia market versus the LA Dodgers, but let's just imagine for a second that Shohei hits that ball in Game 7. Okay, for the record, Keating, I have a beautiful forehead, and it's not crazy not to wear a hat today. The Bartman ball was blown up. What would that sell for? That was one in the moment, Chris, that I feel like had, all the publicity and everything. And then it was, I mean, I don't think there's ever been a trending story that died out quicker.
Well, I remember the National where I forget who the company was, but I think they offered him $250,000 to show up and sign autograph, just to show up, I think. And he didn't. But there was all this, a quiet interest throughout that show if he might pop in and claim that money. But I think if he would have sold the Bartman ball right after the Cubs won the World Series, so much of these sales is timing related. If the Padres would have beat the Dodgers, I think that ball is a $2 million and a half ball. But the fact that he's still going strong, he had a strong series against the Mets. Just right when the auction was capping off, I think that all factors in. So we talked about the real time effect of Tops Now, but if your player is playing during an auction and performing at a high level, your item is going to sell for more. It just does. So I think it was a kind of a perfect storm of factors. The 50-50 had never happened before. Shohei's playing well in the playoffs. Excitement, and big market team. If it was the Angels versus the Dodgers, it's again, that ball's value is not the same. If you had done this for the Angels, it would not be over a $4 million ball. It'd probably be $2 million. So it's wild. It's wild to see what all these factors can contribute to the overall price of a collectible.
So how far is the drive from Dodger Stadium to the Angels Stadium?
It's about half an hour. It really, Angels are really Anaheim, but they grab that LA to try to make themselves marketable in a bigger market. So
it's a 30-minute drive and probably $1.5 million on the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, that cracks me up. John Keating going crazy. I'm not going to get to all of it. A lot of people making the point here that the older stuff is going to be more valuable. Everything's timing related. Definitely agree with that. Now, this is an interesting one. The Brady last touchdown.
Yeah, I saw that in chat. That was a good point.
Brody, I mean, do you worry about if you're spending this type of money that something's going to happen and all of a sudden you don't have what you think you have or the record breaks? I mean, does that scare you to be involved?
Yeah, I mean, kind of, especially since there was all sorts of rumblings that Brady was going to come back again. But I want to back off Chris's point. Like, what if the Dodgers lose in 5 games? Like that Freddie ball, it's a moment still, but it's not. If they win in 4 games, it's kind of a way different price, I feel like, for that ball.
So do you put it on eBay tonight or do you risk it for a week and see if they win?
I mean, if you're a diehard Dodgers fan, I'd keep it. But if you need the money, but like, I feel like if you were at that game, either a diehard Dodgers fan or a diehard baseball fan, you probably want that ball.
I would have flown to Ken Golden's house last night if I had got that ball. I'd just get it done, man, quick as you can.
I don't agree with that either.
That's definitely what I would do. Just George saying this was a Taiwan investment group. They aren't worried in the money. I think they actually said they're going to try to put it on display around Asia. So hopefully people get to see it. All right, John, I said I wasn't going to put you up anymore. I feel like 2 weeks from now, no one will remember game one. It depends what happens in the next couple games.
Yeah.
If the Dodgers go on to win and this is define the series, then it's a whole different story than like Brody said. If the Yankees win in 5, this ball will be buried.
It feels like, though, how evenly matched these teams are. Like there's going to be more moments. Aaron Judge is going to have his moment. Giancarlo Stanton's going to have his moment. Mookie Betts is going to have a moment. Shohei's definitely going to have a moment. So it's like, yeah, does it get overshadowed in time as well? Because there's just what a World Series we have. It really is. It's two teams that a lot of people can't stand, but you've got to watch because it's incredible baseball, right?
It's Goliath versus Goliath.
Yeah.
And I think if your team's not in it, and Chris, you and I were joking about the Orioles and the Padres, we'd still rather see the best baseball we can see. Yeah. I think we'd still rather see the big markets. I mean, Brody, do you have any interest in seeing, the Marlins and Tampa,
I'd be watching my former White Sox Jake Berger on Miami, but
if that's the best thing you can say.
It's like you said, it's a Goliath versus Goliath matchup. And when you really look at the rosters, there's probably 4 or 5 Hall of Famers on both teams. Like Freddie, Ohtani, Mookie, Kershaw. I know he isn't on the roster, and then on the Yankees, Stanton, Judge, Soto. I think I'm missing somebody because the teams are just so good. I can't even remember all their players.
5 MVP award players that have won MVP awards in this series, the most ever in World Series history. Which are we going to look back at this like we look back at the Mays Mantle era? Is that what we're talking about? And to all the people in the chat who talk about modern versus vintage, let's talk about the cards for a second. 40, 50 years from now, how are we looking at these cards and these players? And I think there's a real argument to be made that these guys will turn into the vintage stars that we collect now. And Mike Petty, I understand nobody wants Freeman rookie cards unless they're chase hits. I wonder if that will change. At some point, if he goes to the Hall of Fame. Not putting him there necessarily, but definitely where I could see it going. Bo made a comment here that if the Dodgers win the World Series, Game 1 will be the only one remembered. I think there's too many stars in this. And to your point, Brody, there's too many guys. What if Judge hits a home run?
Right.
A key home run from a guy like Judge or Betts or Ohtani. There's so many stars that could outdo what Freddie Freeman did.
And even if a guy like Gavin Lux that's hitting 7th for the Dodgers has his moment, he creates his World Series legacy too.
I'm not going to stop, John, because I do believe that things like Topps Now, the scarcity may be contrived based upon what it sells, but it is a limited production to what it sells. They're not sitting on shelves, and I think that was the difference if you look at junk wax. Rex says it'll be interesting to watch. Modern players have so many more cards than Mays and Mantle ever did. Well, Chris, that's a good point. When you look at values and you look at submissions, I know that modern players have so many more submissions now. I'm assuming simply based on the available inventory to get graded.
Well, I think the biggest mistake I ever made in my career happened when I was ages 8 to about 13. And it was during the 80s, and everyone's collecting baseball cards. And I remember going in the shop all the time and saying, I love football, I love basketball, but no one buys these cards. And they're like, yeah, they're not worth anything. They're nothing, And I'm like, oh my God, had only I bought hockey, football, and basketball in the 80s instead of baseball. Sometimes you got to zig when other people are zagging. That's why I think that there's room for collectibles like Star Wars still. Like, I still think the market isn't even close to where it should be on Star Wars, One Piece, all these other things, because when you catch them in their infancy, there's not the same population of cards out there. And that's why vintage is a commodity. Vintage baseball in particular is a commodity that it just doesn't seem to go down in value. And we always get in submissions for vintage, but yeah, the amount of Victor Wembanyama's that I've seen this year is probably more than any other player in the history of my life. Like, the population amount that manufacturers are making to satiate the needs of the current collecting community, which is much bigger than card collecting was in the 70s, 80s, 90s. It's almost insane. They have to print so much. Leagues love it, players love it, agents love it, but is it good for the long-term health of the hobby? I don't think so. So, I think there's tremendous value in collecting vintage. I think there's tremendous value in collecting items that don't have large populations around them, because it's just, there's just a lot less of it. Scarcity drives value and ultimately demand. So. Sorry, that was a long way around.
No. We got an hour. You take as much time as you want, Chris. Ziggy says, I could be a billionaire and I'm not buying baseballs, but over a fence. Okay. Good comment. The MVP is the Dodgers fan that caught the Glaber ball. Well, there you go. As a Jeffrey Mayer guy who still has nightmares, don't reach over the fence, people. Mike Petty is right. Way too many modern cards. Almost none of them will matter long term. Most of it's junk. Chris, to your point, and Brody, I want to get your thoughts on this also. Is there a division between the bulk of the production and numbered colored auto? Are we getting into that division in collecting?
I think the colored parallels is like one of the worst things that could ever happen to the hobby. And coming from the manufacturing side, we always said the brand has to have a reason for being, but you can't. We want collectors to collect the rainbow, but you can't make the rainbow 57 different colors and other parallels of that.
You don't want zebra stripe and micro
really waters it down. Yeah, and honestly, from the manufacturing standpoint, I think we would make fun of a brand manager who would go that route, because it can be kind of lazy. You have to be innovative if you want to work for a trading card manufacturer. You have to come up with new ideas. You have to come up with other drivers outside just another foil shift or color parallel or numbering sequence. It just should be better. So I think manufacturers do a much better job today than they did late COVID era type time. But it's one that still drives me nuts when I see 57 different color parallels come through. And even our research team, our people who deal with cards all day long, have a really tough time telling the difference between an aqua and a blue. So it's like, if our experts can't have trouble figuring out, how is a new collector to the hobby supposed to figure this out? It's almost impossible.
And Brody, I wanted to ask you, because I know you collect a bunch of different sports. Do you collect autos only? Do you collect base and autos? Do you have a way that you try to collect in your PC?
My PC, the guys that I really collect is a lot more like, when the product first comes out, I want that base chrome rookie of Brenton Doyle. I'm just going to use my boy BT. I want that base. But then as the product goes on for longer, you see more listings of autos and color and stuff like that. So I feel like I still love getting the base and the autos as well, and the color. But I want to bring up the point too, like, we're talking about Hall of Fame rookie cards, and like, what's a Joe Mauer or Adrian Beltre rookie worth? Just something like to think about, like when Freddie's rookie card, when he's in the Hall of Fame, is it going to be worth a ton? Probably not.
Well, that's my question. Do you have to have an auto? Do you have to have something to in that manufactured value to make it worthwhile?
I mean, it depends on the player, I feel like, because like a guy like Otani, who we've like second Babe Ruth kind of, I feel like it's different. But a guy like a Freddie Freeman that's been more of a role player, not really the right term, but it's just kind of consistently putting up good numbers, not like insane numbers. I feel like you might need an auto of him to drive that price up.
One of the problems, though, is they have to make more cards today than they did even 2 years ago. And the athletes aren't always excited about signing more autographs. In fact, their agents push back quite a bit on it because the athlete's number one priority is to perform on the field. And I've been in a lot of these signing sessions, and you put mountains of cards in front of them and tell them to ship them back. And it's kind of a recipe for disaster. I'm surprised more things don't happen. You'll see it sometimes on different collecting groups or message boards where someone found a box of cards from an athlete in a dumpster or unsigned. So all these things that can happen when you have athletes sign more and more and more autographs. But the other bad thing that happens is their signature starts to suffer. If you look at an athlete's signature when their cards first come out, or minor league or anything like that, compared to what it is generally their rookie season, because their rookie season is when they really have to sign a lot, it suffers. I look at Jackson Merrill in particular, who is someone that I collect right now, who just won Rookie of the Year. Used to have a really nice signature. Now it's just like kind of a J, and it sucks because I want to catch that beautiful autograph. So what manufacturers have to do instead of that, sometimes it is just a foil shift and a color shift and a different variant, but they have to come up with other items to plug in. So whether it be unique memorabilia, I do love. We can't grade them at PSA, but the cleat cards, that are so thick. Panini did a really good football card. I think it was from Immaculate, but it's this chunky card, that gets people talking, or whether it be a booklet card with memorabilia in it that opens up. Those are the types of things that I know that the collecting community wants to see from manufacturers that are different, unique, that drive interest in the hobby. But you can't keep doing autograph on label. You've got to come up with different ideas and different concepts. And for those in the hobby, manufacturers listen a lot on social. But if your request is put more autographs in the product, it's going to be one that they just can't do with how much product they have to make today. It's impossible. The athletes can't do that and perform on the field as well.
I 100% agree. I just want to touch on this real quick. This is why I collect, like you mentioned, Star Wars. I collect Star Wars quite a bit, and wrestling. There's only 4 or 5 sets a year, like max, that they make for wrestling and Star Wars, and I'm sure like Marvel and golf, stuff like that, where there's not as much autographs, and there might be numbered cards. But when you have 5 1-on-1s a year, it's a lot different than like a baseball or football where they have 35 1-on-1 Caleb Williams.
Somebody made the question in here, Chris, getting back to the Wembanyama grading. CJ Stroud's numbers.
I was just typing my response in, but yeah.
Is his stuff flying through now?
I'm seeing a lot more Wembanyama autographs, but it seems not as many Panini Prism cards as I'm seeing of Wembanyama. So I think it feels like it's been a responsible number for what we've seen for him and Stroud so far. And the quality of their signatures seems to be okay. So again, they're not the full licensed version. So maybe Topps is doing something similar. What we're seeing with Topps and LeBron, Topps did this LeBron autograph deal. I always, from dealing with LeBron at Upper Deck, he does not like signing, and I think that's maybe one of the reasons why we've seen most of his offerings that are signed are on these really limited edition items, these one-of-one items, what have you. So I think that will probably be the cadence for LeBron autos in the future. But so far, it seems like Stroud and Wembanyama have been produced at a responsible rate, in my opinion.
So go ahead, Brody. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say, to touch on Chris's point, like Jordan and LeBron, they don't sign much because they don't want to devalue their autographs. LeBron and Jordan are the two best basketball players ever, period. There's no arguing that. You want to argue head to head, you can't. But they don't sign much because they know they're the two best ever. And it's going to be a while before there's somebody that comes close.
Yeah, I think Jordan understands that. I think LeBron just doesn't like doing it. I don't think he likes doing it. And there's a lot of athletes. It's really shocking how many athletes who are good players just don't want to sign. Like they don't like it. They cramps. Go try to sign 100 items and see if your signature looks the same at the start as it does in the beginning. See how your hand feels after it. See how it feels to have the manufacturer calling you and your agent every day asking you to get these back. And oh, by the way, we just shipped you 4 other boxes. It's not something that it burns athletes out frequently. So rookie contracts in particular are kind of a time for manufacturers to see, is this going to be someone we want to work with in the future, or is this someone who's going to be a problem signer? And you tend to see a lot of redemptions in the second half of the year with manufacturers for rookie products, especially if it's hard signed. So it's something to kind of watch for. But I'm always blown away by how manufacturers kind of burn rookies out that first season. So it's a tricky one.
I wonder if Fanatics or Panini, if their next corporate purchase is going to be Avery labels, for all the labels that they're shipping out. Some athletes have beautiful signatures, and I want to give a shout out to Harmon Killebrew, who's one of the prettiest signatures ever. And I love this quote. He told Torrey Hunter to take your time so people 100 years from now know whose signature it is. In this chat room, I know that you guys know some beautiful signatures. Definitely throw it in. If you know of somebody, because I think that is one of the coolest things a player can do. Like you said, Chris, they're athletes first. Rex says we had Andre Dawson in for a signing a few years ago. His auto is one of the best out there and so consistent. I don't know how he does it, but it's amazing.
Beautiful autograph.
Yeah.
No, and it's Wayne Gretzky's father told him to take pride in your signature. And one of the coolest items I've seen come through PSA is it's like, just a piece of paper, but it's when you're in middle school, you would doodle and practice your autograph. It's Wayne Gretzky doing that. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And it's eerily similar to his autograph today, but having that pride in your signature and pride in what you're putting out there for your fans, I think it goes a long way. So, but often you'll see an evolution of athletes' autographs. LeBron James in particular, I think his autograph has changed about 6 times. And we would talk to him about it beforehand, like, hey, what are you doing? What's going on here? But it's interesting to see for sure as athletes go through these points in their careers, how they change. But I've found to Andre Dawson, Harmon Killebrew, it feels like a lot of baseball players in particular, you tend to see some of the best autographs. And oddly, some of them sell for not that much, and Andre Dawson and Harmon Killebrew, they're not going to be as much as some others out there. So I prefer to have those cleaner autographs in my collection than, the scribbles, the X's, the V's.
A couple people throwing out some names here of good autos. Mariano Rivera, a great one. Koufax, a beautiful autograph. Somebody else from Rivera.
But again, all baseball, right? Like you don't see football in particular is terrible. And look at Anthony.
Well, because their fingers are all mashed. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, and then basketball is not great either. So, baseball really is kind of the gold standard. I see some great signatures in hockey, but you see it in entertainment. You see some really good, like Brody and I were talking about, see amazing autographs in Star Wars, Harry Potter. Some of the Leaf Pop Century stuff is really cool. Some of the autographs you get, and they usually look pretty great.
Larry says Eddie Collins is an art piece. I got to admit, I don't have an Eddie Collins auto. Mantle had a good signature. So did all the fake Mantles. Let me tell you, those are beautiful. Most faked autograph ever, Chris. Is that right? Brody, do I have that number?
Ruth and Jordan are the top two that we generally see.
Okay. People really
I'm
still
so
try to
shocked
pull
at how
Ruth.
much fake Jordan we see come through, like especially since he's been signing with Upper Deck Authenticated for so long. But it's tough, and you spend a lot to get one of the Jordan autograph authenticated, so it's tricky. If it's not UDA, I don't go near it usually.
Yeah. Eddie Matthews, Satchel Paige had a beautiful one. It's a hard one to get. Mutual Country, yep, in a slaughter. Reggie, that's an interesting one.
He does have a great auto. I have one of him. He has a great one.
He's got the big cursive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. All right, before we get too far, and let me just read a couple more names: Tony Gwynn, Roger Staubach, Duke Snyder, Babe Ruth. Some great autos.
Griffey Jr. had a great one as well.
I might be partial to that one, Birdie. Charlie Gehringer, nice one, Orlando. Raleigh Fingers was a great one also.
Yeah.
All right. I'd be remiss if I didn't spend the minute.
I love, hey, I don't know if you guys saw this story about Raleigh Fingers pulling a superfractor from the Awesome Shop, but that was really cool. Raleigh has been a character in the hobby for a long, long time. Marcel Bielak from the Awesome Shop in Las Vegas, great store. If you're ever in Vegas, there's some really good shops out there to check out. But he's developed a really good relationship with Raleigh, and it's wild. He's got him opening baseball cards. So I know Topps did a little profile on that, but it's cool to see when athletes open up cards and are genuinely excited about what they get.
I wanted to talk, and Brody, you and I talked for a second before we got on air. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't give a shout out, RIP to Fernando Valenzuela. Anybody who lived through Fernando Mania, or he had a 19-year career, so he might have played for your team. I definitely want to talk about just Fernando and what that was like. And there's very few players that have come out of the gate with such a bang, and to throw a shutout in his first start out of the Mexican League, and being a teenager at the time. Personal to me, but lost him to cancer. So Fernando, just want to give a shout out. And if anybody wants to make a comment, that's awesome. But Fernando's top 10 in Dodgers wins all time. Ruben, I appreciate that, but he's probably not an Orioles Hall of Famer for those 6 starts he made. And he breathed through his eyelids. Exactly. Like they said, he looked up to God on everyone. Fernando started the rookie card revolution.
Yeah, that's not far off.
Yeah, the triple. No one approached young Pete Rose or Mantle out of school to buy 10,000. Yeah. His ESPN 30 for 30 was eye opening. Made me angry at Dodger ownership during that era. I actually didn't see that. Did either one of you guys see that?
Yeah, I'm such a sucker for those 30 for 30s. They are so good. Like, it's just so well done. So yeah, it was didn't paint everyone in a great light, and again, you don't realize all the things that are happening in the back. We all just see the sunshine and rainbows that are coming out from athletes and assume everything's hunky-dory, but not always the case.
Why aren't Fernando rookies valued higher? It wasn't quite the peak of the junk wax era. Brody, I'm going to ask you just because you're a little bit younger. I don't think he gets talked about a lot. I mean, how much were you ever exposed to Fernando Valenzuela's career?
I mean, a little bit. I think definitely MLB The Show helped a lot with getting to know players, because they do a lot for Negro Leagues players now, which is awesome. But I mean, I had know Fernando, and I know about his iconic Rookie of the Year winning and Cy Young winning season. That's amazing. And I think when we talk about records that can't be broken, that's something that somebody might be able to do. Like a Paul Skeens almost was close, but winning the Rookie of the Year and Cy Young in the same year, it's almost impossible. I feel like it's remarkable.
Answering the question of why Fernando's rookies aren't worth more, John says people started saving their cards in the early 80s. Not as many were thrown away as compared to the 70s and earlier. I think there's some truth to that. I love this. He would have went 28-0 if there wasn't a player strike. I mean, he was just dominant back then. Absolutely. Gordon, I get what you're saying. I appreciate the sentiment. I think Fernando was to Mexican community a real breakthrough star, but there was certainly a lot of Hispanic and Latin stars decades before.
Well, I mean, not to get into a whole thing here, but one of the things that I think adversely affects Fernando's value is that he's beloved by the Hispanic community. And unfortunately, in this hobby, we don't do a good enough job of embracing the Hispanic community. There's a great Asian community for collectors, but most Hispanic collectors either don't have access or don't have the same funds or opportunities to collect like we are have all been blessed to do. So I love when so many good people in the hobby try to bring in others into it. And I think whenever I travel, whenever I go places, I try to find players from that area to bring and share with kids. Putting cards in people's hands at an early age is so magical. It's so important. But unfortunately, the industry hasn't marketed itself well enough, in my opinion, to the Hispanic community.
Without a doubt. That's interesting. I'd be curious on the distribution in other countries and the marketing efforts made as the hobby grows to see how that changes.
I've been really surprised to see how many Hispanic collectors collect coins and banknotes as opposed to trading cards. Working also with PCGS, who does the coin grading and card grading, I see Hispanic collectors at coin shows and numismatic conventions all the time, but you don't see it at the Dallas Card Show or the National, or so it's something to be mindful of as you're at these events. It's something I always look at. Why aren't there more African American collectors? Why aren't there more Hispanic collectors? And something we all need to do as ambassadors of the hobby to make our industry more inviting and opening to people of all colors.
I do think, and Brody, before we wrap up, what has the Jackie Robinson Day, the Roberto Clemente, what has that done to the younger collectors to show a spotlight on some of those guys from previous generations?
I think it really helps young collectors get to know like how much they really did for the help of baseball. I love both those days commemorating them because they deserve it. And I think there's a lot of people that deserve it too that necessarily don't have their own day.
Without a doubt. I think if you gave a day to everybody who deserves one in baseball, we'd play half a season. All right. Any last thoughts before we wrap it up today? I know we glossed over some stuff. We had some good conversation.
All right. Well, anybody that's still in the chat, I got a couple of the Halloween packs, but I got a trivia question. So DM me the answer, whoever's first.
Whoa, Brody. Are those football or basketball? Let's understand what we're dealing with.
Okay.
And you're at Brody TK, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
One score treat. Brody TK on Twitter. Brody Kid One on Instagram. Trivia question is: player born on Halloween with the most home runs. Whoever gets it to me first, win those couple packs. A little Halloween gift.
And please don't put it in the chat. Just DM Brody.
Yeah, and shameless plug, PSA will be out at the Dallas Card Show. We'll be out at Toronto Expo doing on-site grading. And we are doing more and more events at local hobby shops. We're going to be opening up our facilities, our headquarters to drop off some more. So I always get anxiety about putting my favorite things in the mail. So handing it right to a PSA representative is a pretty darn good option. So if you want to check that out, psacard.com/events for where we'll be next.
Says that he'll see you in Dallas next Saturday. Chris, good luck to your son in the game. And I hope that the
all day, Danny, all day at the baseball field. Oh, and luckily it's tomorrow too. It's Halloween tournament.
I
don't need to watch football.
If you ever need to talk and digress about how the baseball games went, you just talk.
Yeah, Brody, I need to get some therapy from you on that for sure.
Yeah, every time I see Brody, he's either coming back or going to a game.
That's true.
All right. Well, to the chat room, to everybody else, very appreciated. Made it a fun hour. Chris, Brody, always great. If anybody wants to get in touch with us off air, we're all on social media. And these two guys are very nice at getting back and answering questions. To everybody else, thank you so much for joining us. And if I can find the outro, we're out of here. Take care.